right, welcome to the program. J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody being here with me today. It is, of course, the day before Thanksgiving. I'm sure a lot of you are probably out and about, traveling around. I just hit the go-go button, so let me make sure that everything is operating the way it should be operating. If you have any trouble hearing me, just let me know in the comments below. And, of course, feel free to comment, ask a question, whatever you like. American Nana is already in the chat. Thank you for being here from West Virginia, the beautiful Appalachian Mountains over there. So hope everybody is at least on their way where they're going to be for the holiday. And I hope everybody, of course, has a safe trip. So make sure you're careful out there. I think there's a storm blowing in, at least on the east side of the country. All right. Also, I just put in the chat. There we go. Okay, that link right there, if you would like to call in and be on video and have a discussion about some of the topics we're going to talk about today, feel free to do so. If you are shy and you don't want to be on camera for whatever reason, no problem. It's kind of like the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You can just simply call in by clicking that same link. You do not have to appear by video. No problem whatsoever. I want to say a quick hello to our friends on Twitch and, of course, on the X platform. And thank you for everyone that is piling in on the YouTube platform. Okay, looks good. Looks like everything is up and running. So, exciting things going on with Donald Trump. I am just, I don't want to wish my life away, but I am thrilled that January 20th is right around the corner. This is one of my favorite times of the year. We got Thanksgiving tomorrow, Christmas soon thereafter. And especially this year, this season, we have Donald Trump, who's about to come back to power. And there's a lot of people that are not very happy about that, as you can imagine. A lot of these woke Democrats, my friends, they are definitely in a full panic and somewhat denial. You know, it's kind of like the 3 stages of grief on some level. I think the first response is basically denial. Oh, no, this didn't happen. This is not real. It really wasn't a mandate. It was whatever. And it's just kind of denial inside their minds. And then I think what you're going to start see happening really quick, and this kind of happened already, is the next stage, which of course is anger. You see that by a lot of the comments that are coming out. I believe it was the Denver mayor coming forward and saying, hey, I'm not going to cooperate with the feds. I'm going to do everything in my power to effectively obstruct the federal government with their mandate to follow the law and to expel, especially the criminal elements of all the migrants that have come into our country. And we're going to talk about that very soon because there's some interesting things being chatted about in the news. And I don't think Donald Trump's going to take it this time. I think you're going to see a situation where Donald Trump is going to prosecute some of these people that choose to be obstructionists. He's kind of holding out the olive branch, if you will, even with Letitia James and some of these other bad actors. But I think that's only going to be offered for a limited time only. As a matter of fact, you got Black Friday coming up this Friday. It's kind of like that. This is a special offer. It's for a limited time only, and you might want to go ahead and take advantage of it. Okay, FJB, thank you for being here. Washington State. Yes, beautiful up there in Washington State. I think I've been there once or twice for sure. Love it up that way. And, of course, Rosemarie Fiera. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat, young lady. Thank you for being here once again. And, of course, American Nana, again, thank you for being here. And I see that we're starting to get people piling in. So, once again, welcome. I want to go ahead and I made like just kind of a little opening monologue. So, bear with me. Let me read this, talk about it for a brief second. Then we're going to drill directly into the main things I want to talk about. So obviously, as we gather today, being the, I guess you can call it Thanksgiving Eve, it's a perfect time for us all to pause and reflect on just how truly blessed we are as Americans. We live in the greatest country on earth, a country that offers freedom, opportunity, and we have a resilience unlike anywhere else in the world. This year, we have an even more reason to celebrate, obviously, with President Donald Trump, the Donald Trump president-elect, which, of course, I'm very excited about. He and his team are working tirelessly to implement the agenda that the American people sent him back to the White House to put things back the way they should be. They're laying a foundation to bring America back on track and to provide the kind of strong leadership that we need desperately. And folks, it's not just us, it's the entire world that America leads by extension. But beyond politics, Thanksgiving is a reminder to appreciate the countless blessings we enjoy every day, blessings we often take for granted. Think about it. Even the poorest among us here in the modern United States of America live in ways that, frankly, the rulers of yesteryear would have been very happy, like the pharaohs. And these people seemingly had no care in the world, and they had all the money, property, land, and power they could ever want. The pharaohs of Egypt, with all their wealth, power, they lacked access to things that we have today. Even a, let's just say, a poor person, if you will, in the United States, has blessings that a pharaoh would be happy to trade places with them right here in America. And I know that's kind of a hard thought to get your mind around, but imagine if a pharaoh from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, I guess, would have the choice, they would happily change places with just a average, quote unquote, poor American today. We have clean running water, electricity, modern medicine, less kids die in childbirth by far. And of course, we have home comforts like refrigeration, microwaves. Our lifespans are 2 or 3 times what they were at that particular point in human history. We have a healthcare system here, and even poor people, quote unquote, poor people, can show up to a hospital if necessary and receive medical care that they need. Again, it's not perfect, ladies and gentlemen, but of course, we have all these blessings, and we rarely stop to acknowledge these blessings. Sometimes we don't acknowledge them until we don't have these particular blessings. Even Abraham Lincoln, the president who made Thanksgiving a national holiday, and it was a very dark period in American history. We're talking about the Civil War, but he said the greatest gratitude is not in uttering words, but in living by them. As we celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow, let us all remember to count our blessings, large and small, from the air we breathe to the opportunities before us, from the love of our family, our friends, the people in our lives, and of course, the freedoms we hold dear. This is the time of year to give thanks to God for his grace and for allowing us to live in what is undeniably the greatest era and the greatest country in human history. I want us all to cherish these blessings and not wait until they're gone to realize just how blessed we are. So, at any rate, I hope that kind of sheds some perspective. Despite all the politics, all the negative things that's been going on the last year, the last 2 years, frankly, last 4 years, hope is around the corner, and we should all be mindful of that and appreciative of that. Okay, let's go ahead and start into our first video, and let's take a look at the J.R. Dukes feed specifically. Now, I know I was teasing it in my thumbnail, pertaining to they took away my plans if I ever, God forbid, of course, ended up going to prison. Now, I was being a little tongue-in-cheek about that. I don't want anybody to think that that was clickbait or anything else. I have a specific point that I want to make in that regard, and that is the following. You have this guy here. His name is, I think it's pronounced Melia. He is the president of Argentina, and he just passed a declaration or rule, whatever. He says he is banning men from women's prisons and men will not be able to say they identify as a woman to pretend to be women just so they can get into a woman's prison. And of course, I'm being tongue in cheek about that. I always joke, or I have joked in the past, that if I was able to change or whatever, and I was sentenced to some type of prison sentence, that would be my plan, is to tell them I identify as a woman and be sent to a woman prison, but I digress. So I realize my humor is a little dry sometimes, but when I saw that story, I thought that was hilarious, and I wanted to share that with you. Okay, notwithstanding that, let's go ahead and get back to the top of the feed here. Y'all probably know brother Pastor T.D. Jakes, right? He does a lot of, he's been around forever. He does a lot of motivational speeches nowadays. I think his congregation in Dallas, Texas is called the Potter's House. And I personally really like brother T.D. Jakes. I know he's somewhat controversial. I know that, like all of us, he's not a perfect person, but I really think he is a good man, and he tries to do a lot of good in the world. Well, you may or may not be aware of this, but just last week, I think it was only two, actually, it was this past Sunday, he had a medical event during one of his sermons. And of course, that has been concerning all of us for good reason. He was taken in for some type of medical procedure. The speculation was he had some kind of what they call mini stroke or some type of minor stroke, but he kind of froze on stage. He was kind of shaking his hands, this and that. But it seems like he is doing much better. And one of the stories I want to talk about today is he has filed a lawsuit against another pastor that said that T.D. Jakes actually molested him when he was 17, 18, 19 years old, something along them lines. And I really want to talk about this because T.D. Jakes, in my mind, has a solid reputation. He's a good man, a man of God, and I may not agree with him on everything politically or everything that comes out of his mouth, just like most people probably don't agree with everything someone has to say. But my point is, I do believe this guy is a good man. I'm glad to see him doing better, and this is him being discharged from the hospital. And I just thought we'd take a quick peek at it because, again, I hope he has.
Here we are.
And of course, he's still slow moving around. It's probably hard to hear what he's saying. They did caption it at the bottom of this video, but
All the people who prayed,
he says that he's thanking everybody who prayed for him and all the people who text
all the people,
and all the people who have prayer vigils. Obviously, there's been a lot of praying on behalf of brother T.D. Jakes, and I'm glad to see him up and moving around. So if you would continue to include him in your personal prayer list, I think that's appropriate, and I would appreciate that. Okay. Once again, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to click on that link or just do like American Anna did and type it into the main chat. All right, let's see. American Anna, T.D. Jakes is on the Diddy. I know that. I know he's on the Diddy list, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that list and if he has done anything good, bad. I mean, American Anna, I'm sure you agree with this on some level. There's no such thing. I need to put myself up a little higher here so you can, there we go. There's no such thing as a perfect human being. We all know this. And I don't care what someone's daytime job is, even Pastor T.D. Jakes. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I think that is an understatement. And obviously, I would not condone any type of illegal behavior, but this is just all speculation on the part of brother T.D. Jakes. Now, admittedly, when it comes to other people like LeBron James and some of these other people that just love, these woke individuals that just love to kind of tell us all what to do and how to live and all this other stuff, and then they get caught up in something like this. Yeah, it is kind of funny, and I do snicker a little bit about it. But yeah, I'm not aware of the. I know they have been together, but someone like Diddy has been around a lot of people, and we'll just have to see exactly how it all plays out. And thank you for having a open mind. So, which reminds me, I want to welcome. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am obviously J.R. Dukes. We are the home of the free-minded patriots here. If you are tired of indoctrination and you like to get a clear, fresh perspective on exactly what's going on in the world, especially any type of politics, we talk about everything from politics, legal news, police interactions, the whole nine yards. My entire goal of my channel is to help you live your best life possible by understanding the world we live in so that we can all make the appropriate choices and do what's best for us, our families, our children, grandchildren, and our country, frankly. It's just really that simple. So again, I welcome to the channel. If you would like to help out the channel, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Helps out the algorithm, pushes out this information, and it helps it rank as far as people being able to see it on their feed. So welcome once again. All right, let's continue moving on. You'll remember, especially right here in Florida, this was actually a national story. You remember Casey Anthony? She was the one that was on trial for murder of her daughter. I think she was like 3, 4 years old at the time. She was actually acquitted here in Florida during her murder trial. And following her life has been kind of like a indirect soap opera, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I just thought this was kind of cute because I like following these crime stories, these legal stories, whatever. And the New York Post is reporting Casey Anthony splits from married boyfriend. And she's quoted as saying he regrets leaving his wife for her. Again, according to the New York Post. Tell me if I'm wrong or if this is overly complicated, but does it really take like a fortune teller to figure this out? He regrets leaving his wife. So this was a married man. I'm assuming he's still married, and he moves in with Casey Anthony. And it didn't work out. Who could have seen that coming? A man that walked out of his relationship with his wife to move in with a woman that has been on trial for killing her daughter. I don't know. Just one of them things that make you go, I wonder exactly why that broke up. Now, one of the big stories of today that I want to drill down on even more has to do with Kamala Harris, and not just the fact that she lost. That's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to really emphasize today is her campaign. Every single day, it seems like there's more information that comes out that exposes her campaign for what it has been. And that is a big fraud, just a complete and utter fraud of the American public. It's astonishing what is going on. I know that, I think it was yesterday, I mentioned that Oprah Winfrey was paid $1 million to have that. I don't want to say it's a direct endorsement, but clearly she endorsed Kamala Harris from the original time she ran for president, and then of course at the DNC, the actual convention that they had, she was there going, Kamala Harris. That's my Oprah invitation. I know it's imitation. I know it's terrible. But I was wrong. It wasn't just $1 million she was paid. Apparently, and I don't want to be technical, it was Oprah Productions, her company, that was paid this money. That's how she gets away with saying I was not paid that money. But we're playing semantics when you get right down to it. As it turns out, she was paid almost 2 million, 1.5 million. It says Oprah Winfrey is asked if she was paid for endorsement of Kamala Harris for president. Oprah denies ever being paid, but FEC filing. See, they're required by law, to put this information in reports to the FEC. The FEC filing, so she received 2 payments. Let me pull it up here so I can give all the information. 2 payments of $500,000 each. I've heard it was even more money than that, as much as double. I'll continue to follow it and see what happens. And here is a TMC guy questioning her about, did you receive this money directly? So let's see what.
How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true. Okay.
I was paid nothing ever.
What do you think about all the celebrities with their mass exodus?
I'm not talking about that.
Do you think Prince Harry's gonna lose his visa now that Trump's president? Thank you, Oprah.
Yeah, see, I don't think they ever plan on getting caught on this. I don't think they ever plan on getting called out or being confronted even. In their mind, we're thinking, oh, Kamala Harris is going to win. This is never going to see the light of day. But as it turns out, every single musician, Hollywood celebrity, and I don't want to say everyone, I want to be technically correct, it's coming out in drips and drips and drips that apparently the vast majority of her quote unquote supporters had to be paid supporters. Some of the people commenting on this particular post here says, oh, she's playing word games like the Democrats do. She personally may not have been paid, but her production company was paid. So that's undeniable proof. And all the comments on here, I looked through them earlier, that's pretty well what they say. We know what's going on, and it's coming out in drips, drips, drips. As a matter of fact, what was some of the other celebrities, just the other people that you've seen with her, including Beyonce. I'd like to see how much she was paid. I have not seen documentation on that personally. But you had individuals like Eminem paid like $1.2, $1.5 million. It just it's astonishing that they did that and thought they could get away with it. And I'm still checking on this, but it's my understanding that if you are paid for an endorsement, you're supposed to publicly declare that, especially like, you know, those commercials you see on TV where the candidate themselves says, I approve this message. Well, that's a law. That's one of the rules during campaign events. But if you have another person that comes out and says, hey, I'm endorsing you, well, if you give them money for that endorsement, they're supposed to disclose that this is a paid endorsement. Now, I'm not sure exactly technically what the rules are if they pay it to your company and then, of course, it's paid back to you. Remember, yesterday we talked about the good Reverend Al Sharpton of MSNBC fame was paid, what was that, $500,000, 2 checks of $250,000. Now, again, it was not paid directly to the Rev, but it was paid to his charity. And as I have explained, all he has to do at that point, because he controls the charity, is simply instruct the charity to pay him a consulting fee or reimburse him for expenses he may have, whatever. I mean, it's like that one commenter said, it's all semantics, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what is going on here. It's something that should not be allowed. It's just fraud on the American people. And like these other commenters are saying, they're all liars. Oprah's a tip of the spear. I agree. I think more and more of this stuff is going to come out. So stay tuned is all I can say on this right here. So, all right. Now, there is a lot of these commentators. I want to get back to her later, but you had OAC, Cortez. I went ahead and I commented on this. It says that AOC thinks that almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating, and that Tulsi Gabbard's nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period. She's one of many that are saying that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset or is at least influenced by Russia. Effectively, she's a spy. And they have no proof to back it up other than that she allegedly met with the Syrian leader one time. Big deal. As we've talked about on this channel, it should not be a crime. It should be encouraged to sit down and talk with your enemies to find ways of compromise and working out whatever problem there is. But my comment today was AOC may be pretty to look at. Obviously, she's highly intelligent, but clearly she is just wrong with no common sense. Let's take a quick peek at this and we'll move on.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it, loves her.
And I actually think almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating. And Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals.
Including
abroad.
in Syria.
And let's be very clear, a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period.
Yeah, so what they're basically saying, or she's trying to say, is number one, Tulsi Gabbard, is worse than Matt Gaetz' nomination was. And of course, this is on the very conservative Joy Reid show, which, of course, I'm being tongue-in-cheek about again. I don't think MSNBC is going to have to worry about it too much, my friends. I think that they are probably, if they're not sold directly to someone else, I think there's a good chance MSNBC may go the way of the dodo bird. I don't think they're going to be around. I don't have any direct proof on that, but the fact that all of these liberal news, I use that word in quotes, agencies are being kind of chopped off from the main company, like ABC's and Walt Disney. They're trying to split the news division off from there. Same thing with, like I just said, MSNBC. And I believe NBC News is also looking at splitting off certain additional assets pertaining to the news. They are making the right choice by saying, hey, we need to get these controversial assets like The View away from the main company. For example, I think the most clear example is the Walt Disney Company. They should focus on making beautiful movies for children, for families, like they've done for years, and stay out of these debates, this don't say gay debate and all this other nonsense, because their job should be to make a profit for their shareholders. That's what companies are all about. They're all about turning a profit, and they need to get out of the politics, period. have you guys heard of a movie? And I'm going to have to check this out myself. And that's what I said in my post there. It's called Landman, and it's got Billy Bob Thornton in here. And, you know, there's a lot of information going on right now, a lot of discussion, I should say, pertaining to the Green New Scam, as President Donald Trump-elect would say. I think it's also referred to as the Green New Deal. But in this particular movie, apparently, Billy Bob Thornton and this other individual that stars in the movie, it's on Paramount Plus again. It's a series. He said, it says, here is Billy spitting facts about oil and wind power. It looked rather interesting to me, so I'm going to check it out. Let's take a quick peek at this clip, and y'all tell me what you think about it. What's hilarious about this debate on the climate and whatnot, even if you look at, I think it was 2 years ago in the great state of Texas, they have a lot of their supply of power based on wind and some of the other solar and some of the other what they call renewable energy sources. Well, you remember when they had that freezing event that hit Texas really hard? They had a lot of people, a lot of homes without power whatsoever because, ladies and gentlemen, when you get super cold, it becomes, let's just say, freezing conditions. They cannot produce the power like a coal plant can produce or a nuclear plant can produce. And that's a lot of the problems with this technology. It's a great idea to have all this renewable stuff, but as they're pointing out in this movie, it doesn't work. We don't really have the technology, at least not now, to switch completely over to this type of technology. You got some of these woke crazies that are currently in the government that are trying to take our military, for example, and make our tanks like battery operated. Can you believe that? Instead of allowing them to run on diesel or whatever the exact fuel is that they're using in them right now. It's, you just get these people with these crazy, wacky ideas. And one of the other points, and then we'll move on, is the fact that when you build one of these windmills, there's more of a carbon footprint, if you will. We'll just use their terminology, carbon footprint to make that particular windmill than that windmill would allegedly save over the life of that windmill. But again, I don't want to go too deep down that hole. I just wanted to point that out because I'm going to take a look at that movie. If I find it interesting, I'll let you know. But that's supposed to be Landman is the name of that on the Paramount Plus app. If y'all have that, if you have a Walmart subscription, I think you get that free as part of your Walmart Plus. I don't have any affiliation with them people. I know it sounds like I'm trying to sell something. I'm not. I just thought that looked like a good movie, and I had other people tell me that they enjoy watching that movie. So anyway, just FYI. All right, here we go. We have Scott Jennings, who obviously has a gig on CNN. I love watching him most of the time, I will say. Sometimes he's not on the ball the way he should be. But in this particular thing, he says he demands Mexico get in line to stop the flow of illegal immigration and fentanyl to the U.S. And this was the same interview that you had Kevin O'Leary in, and he was, well, let's just put it this way. He was taking him to task on exactly why Kamala Harris did not become the next president of the United States. But let's listen to this quick exchange, and then we can talk about it.
It may not be long for that political world, but obviously it sparked a conversation, which they do need to have. They don't have a lot of fentanyl that comes across the border, but there are some people that come across the border. I'll tell you what Mexico needs to do. They need to stop the people, and they need to stop the drugs. It's coming right over the southern border. They're a terrible neighbor. They have been a terrible neighbor. And Donald Trump needs to get their attention, and I think he has done that. I agree with you. This is the beginning of a negotiation, but it's more than just the economy. It's national security, and it's this poison that is killing American people all over this country.
I 100% agree. Like the fentanyl epidemic is horrible. It's tragic. We need to do something about it.
And China's part of it as well, and they're part of it as well.
You know that there actually was bipartisan legislation intended to increase our fentanyl detection technologies at the border, and Trump killed it. That was the bipartisan border bill that Trump basically unilaterally killed.
You keep fighting these old battles.
It's
Donald
not an
Trump,
you're saying it's a
you're not over it.
No,
Donald Trump won,
saying it's a
and
current
he wants,
issue.
and
I'm
he
saying we
wants
have a
the
solution.
border secured.
That's the solution to it.
But he wants the
the solution.
It's not
to
the
it.
only solution, because Mexico has to do something.
They
It's
have
coming
been
up
doing
their
something.
country and right over our border. They do nothing. It's a crisis. They do nothing.
Do you know what's happened to?
And he's exactly right. They do nothing. You remember back when Donald Trump was in his first administration, just like I put in the comments just now, they need to get with have the hammer drop down on them. And I mean heavily. Now, if the current president of Mexico, she just took office, apparently, if she wants to seem tough for her constituents, no problem. You can go ahead and bark all you want. But at the end of the day, she needs to come to the table and close down the border like they did under the first Trump administration, re-implement that remain in Mexico policy. That way, whoever is seeking asylum has to wait there while their case is being evaluated. I think that is a perfect way to essentially shoot the first silo, is exactly what Donald Trump is trying to do. He's saying there's a new sheriff in town. The name is Donald Trump. You know how this works. We did it before, and either get in line or else.
Border crossings in the last year, they've gone down by about 75%.
It's a crisis. If you want to argue that it's safe and secure,
I
that's
didn't
crazy.
say that. I didn't say
They've
that.
got it act. They've
Scott,
got
I didn't say that. I'm saying
The Mexican president said something that I think everybody's skipping over. She said
I know where you're
drug
going with this.
consumption.
Yes.
She talked about Americans using drugs. So what she's saying is that nobody's forcing you to use these drugs. They don't just come from Mexico. We know they also come from China. And so, you know, the problem is not just theirs, it's ours as well.
Yeah,
and
she's
we
doing
have to
supply
get
and
control.
demand.
And it was a callous.
Using those drugs, that's why they're saying.
No, I don't want to make you think we're not listening to you, but I want to underscore this point that she said there's also a market that's not being, demand is not being addressed.
I've heard
And is
this all day
that
long.
something?
I've heard this.
The thing is, though, ladies and gentlemen, those drugs, it's kind of like the opium wars back in China, where they kind of lost like an entire generation. Even now, China is still sore about that part of their history. And they should be, because there was a whole generation, if not generations, lost to them drugs coming in, specifically opium, that many years ago. And then today you have all of this fentanyl coming across the state line. I will say, I do agree with the argument that there's a lot of Americans that choose to use those drugs. But the problem is they cannot allow it to come into the country the way it's coming into the country. Right now, fentanyl, according to statistics, and, you know, I'm very, very skeptical of all these statistics I hear on the news, but I'm sure it is a high number. They say that in the United States, between the age of 18 and 45, fentanyl is the number one killer of Americans in that particular age group. That is a sobering statistic, that many people die of fentanyl. And I think that has to change. I mean, there's really no other way to look at it. You cannot continue to allow them to keep letting those drugs flow across the border. And in my mind, you cannot allow all these immigrants coming across the border. We don't know who's coming in across the border. We don't know how many people's coming across the border. And most importantly, we don't know how many of these people are terrorists or they are coming across to do something even worse. You know, like plan like another 9/11, this type of thing. I meant, this is not rocket science. They should not allow this. And I'm glad that they're taking steps to put a stop to this right here. Now, there's been a lot of talk again about Kamala Harris, and, you know, they're kind of having a crisis right now. We have our buddy Jesse saying that Obama wore the forest at Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Y'all probably seen a little bit of this on the news. They were kind of forced to kind of apologize for what was going on, or the fact that they actually lost the election and the way that they handled it. Now, it says, we learned that Kamala's internal polling never had her in the lead. You know how they were saying, oh, we're leading, and they're telling their donors that they're leading. They were never leading. And by the way, we thought it was $1 billion that she raised. She raised all this money from people that probably didn't have that much money. A lot of these ladies with cats, you know, these childless cat ladies that they kept talking about, that had a certain amount of money in the bank, probably not a lot of money, but they took what they could and donated it to the Harris campaign, and to the tune of 1.5 to $2 billion now. So it's effectively double what we thought it was. But imagine that. $1.5 billion they spent in 108 days. It's almost unbelievable. And we'll see where the accounting goes on this. I'd be curious to see exactly if any of this was straight up stolen. And it is amazing how much money that is. $1 billion is really hard to get your mind around and to comprehend what that is. See, $1 billion would be a ton of money. 1.5 billion to $2 billion. Wow. I have to do the math on that and divide that by 108 days and see how much it is that they're spending. no wonder why you had Oprah Winfrey being paid $1 million, $1.5 million, and all these other people being paid a ton of money. They just had no accountability, and they just didn't care because it wasn't their money; it was other people's money, and they were all too happy to spend it. And one other thing that really sticks in my crawl on this, you have individuals like Oprah that's already a multi billionaire, and she was paid more money, more millions of dollars. It's just like they don't care about the working class. They don't care about the common people in America. They only care about how much money and power they can acquire for themselves. I'm sure it aggravates you like it does me, but it's just unconscionable
Getting
what
that
they did,
timing
and
right.
it's clearly
The
fraudulent.
Raging Cajun James Carville told Democrats.
Y'all know I love the Raging Cajun. This was the guy that got Bill Clinton into power, and he's kind of been a little bit of a legend, at least in the political arena, so to speak, when it comes to this time of year where they have the elections. Everybody turns to him as the guru of what is wise and what people should and shouldn't do. And it's kind of funny to listen to him talk because he definitely sounds like he just come off a farm somewhere down in Louisiana, and he doesn't hold back what his feelings or thoughts are. So it's entertaining, if not interesting.
To do the walk of shame. And we know how good Democrats are at following orders. So they lined Kamala right up for an early Thanksgiving apology tour.
The outcome of this election obviously is not what we wanted. It is not what we.
Y'all look at her face there. Now I have to be careful what I say. Remember, I had my quote unquote a warning. I didn't get a strike, thank goodness. But they removed one of my videos, and then I took another video down because I knew it was similar. And we know what we discussed pertaining to Kamala Harris. I've heard many news stations now talk about it openly, about how she looks in these particular videos. It's very clear to you and to me what's going on. I think it's very obvious. It looks extremely suspicious. I guess what I'm trying to say is she should not be operating a motor vehicle looking the way she looks in that photo. But it's just interesting how everything comes full circle. Now, you know me, I'm not one of these people going to sit around and tell you, oh, this is not fair, that they crack down on my free speech or whatever, and yet other people this and that. That's not my style. That's not what I'm about. But the point I'm trying to tell you is what we have talked about. And of course, if you're interested in full story, it is on X at Reach JR Dukes. But on YouTube, I try to abide by their policies, at least to the best of my ability. But it's all coming out all over the, I guess you can call it the mainstream news media right now. It's coming out everywhere. So if you hear about it, we've talked about it before.
Worked so
right?
hard for. But I am proud of the race we ran. You knocked on doors. You called friends. You called in favors. You said, hey, I showed up at your softball game. Now I need you to show up at the campaign office. And I know this is an uncertain time. I'm clear-eyed about that.
She don't look too clear-eyed to me.
And it feels heavy. And I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you.
And
what does that even mean? Don't let anybody take their power away from you. I mean, I understand the words, but what is she trying to say? It's another one of her word salads that she's become extremely famous for. Just word salad city. And folks, that's not the end of Kamala Harris. I have another video where you had John Morgan of the Morgan & Morgan, where they're on TV saying for the people. And by the way, I think he actually has a great law firm. I know people that have used them and had great experiences with them. But my point is, some of these mega donors, and he's one of the mega donors, they are enraged at Kamala Harris and what she has done with this money. And in addition to that, they're going back to other donors and saying, hey, we're 20, 30 million in debt right now. Can you give us some more money? I mean, it really takes some big, to sit down and say, hey, I'm going to go back to the well and ask for more money after I just blew all this money from hardworking people and gave it to other people that are multimillionaires.
Wasn't just Harris.
If not outright billionaires like Oprah Winfrey.
Tim Walz had to apologize. And the whole campaign did too. Wilmington was ordered to report to Obama World and explain themselves, but they're still full of it.
It can sound like making excuses. This political environment sucked, okay? We were dealing with ferocious
headwinds. And I think people's instinct was to give the Republicans and even Donald Trump another chance. So we had a complicated puzzle to put together.
You know, there was nothing really complicated about this. The reality was Joe Biden was extremely unpopular. They knew he was extremely unpopular. They chose, including Kamala Harris, to hide his condition. Y'all know on this program, go back and look at the old videos. We talked about Joe Biden having some type of mental deficit. I called it what it was. I said he's got some type of Alzheimer's or something going on where he is clearly in some type of cognitive decline. He's in his 80s after all. I mean, it's not his fault, but you had all these people around him that are engaging in what I can only call elder abuse. All these people around him, and they continue to tell him, Joe, you look fine. Joe, you're doing great. Just go ahead and keep going. And the reason for that is they didn't want to take a chance to lose power. It's all about power. It's all about money. Forget about what's best for the United States of America. There was that one candidate on the Democratic side that last year was coming out saying something's wrong with Joe. And because he said that, he was simply pushed to the back. No one wanted anything to do with him. They were like, no, you just leave us alone. They took him off different committee assignments, if my memory serves me correctly. They didn't want nothing to do with that guy because he had the gall to state what was going on. Yet you had Kamala Harris, who basically in a coup, I mean, she didn't have one vote to be the top of the Democratic ticket for president. And she hid what was going on with Joe. So they can say it's Joe's fault, it's this person's fault. Listen, there's people around him that knew what was going on for a very long time, but they didn't want to take a chance on rocking the boat. They knew Donald Trump was going to be one heck of a force to deal with and to fight, and they did not want to risk losing again. So they thought, since Joe Biden won the first time, he's probably our only bet to win a second time. But after that debate where Biden froze up, they knew the cat was out of the bag and they knew it was hopeless. So they were in an emergency, I guess is the best way to say it. They were desperate. The clock was running out. They had to do something. So what did they decide to do? Have some type of a primary and everybody get together and talk about it and vote and come up with the strongest candidate to take on Donald Trump? No, they did not do that. What they did do is they decided, hey, we're just going to go ahead and anoint Kamala Harris as the candidate. They didn't even try to have any type of competition to see maybe if the Michigan governor, what is her name, Whitmire, whatever her last name is, but they could have had Josh Shapiro. They could have had the Michigan governor. There's 3 or 4 different individuals that could have been better alternative choices. And finally, I'll say, how about the fact that Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate? Nobody likes her, and most importantly, nobody wants anything to do with her policies. Nobody wants fracking. Nobody wants to lose their Second Amendment right to bear arms and have a gun. No one believed her. We knew she was lying through her teeth every time she opened her mouth. She kept telling us all the time about how dangerous Donald Trump was going to be, and he was a threat to democracy. Nobody believed that. I definitely didn't believe it. I know you didn't believe it. We saw it for what it was. Just a big package of lies telling us anything and everything they can to keep the White House, to keep power, to keep that money. And we knew what was going on. Look at all the lawfare against Donald Trump. They thought that was going to help. I guess somehow, some way they figured if we just keep persecuting this individual, we take his money, we sue his kids, we embarrass him with mugshots by having him arrested with Sweet Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade out there in Georgia. And of course, that's not enough. They kept hammering him in New York with Letitia James. They kept Judge Merchant. I mean, they made sure it went to the judge because he got all these cases involving J6 or anything involving Donald Trump or any of his cronies that were handled in that particular New York court. So it's supposed to be a lottery system, remember? It's supposed to be like randomly it just goes to a judge. No, there was no lottery about this. Every case that had anything to do with Donald Trump went to that exact it went to that exact case. And you know, people see right through that. So they got what they deserved. We watched Donald Trump walking in and out of court every single day and having to sit there. The judge would not even allow him to campaign. It was compulsory that he was in court for each and every day of that ridiculous trial. And they did the same thing, by the way. Judge Engeron, remember, that's a civil trial is what that was, but he insisted Donald Trump had to be there. He couldn't be out doing somewhere else. And generally in a civil context, you don't have to show up for the trial if you don't want to. At least I've never heard of that. Have you guys ever heard of that where someone had to, it was compulsory that they had to be there? I never heard of that. That was nothing I've ever seen. Matt, thank you for being here, my friend. Good to see you. As always, I hope you are having the start of a great Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you for being here. Thanks for everybody being here. All right, let's continue back with this video and let's take a peek at, I just saw a clip where they had one of these donors in here chatting, Morgan and Morgan, I think. Let's take a quick peek at it.
Fight for 28. And the donors are like, are you kidding me?
I think this disqualifies her forever.
That is a tough statement. The guy on the right, actually, my face is over him. Let me minimize myself down here. Sorry about that, folks. There you go. You got John Morgan. Y'all seen him on TV for the people. And as I've said, I actually like his firm, Association of Attorneys that he has. I've actually used his law firm. I've had other friends that have used the law firm on a minor situation, minor matters that I need to take care of. They actually did a great job. I wasn't too sure about using a firm like that. And no, I'm not getting paid by them or any type of endorsement. So I'm just telling you, normally I don't use big firms like that, but they have it all together. This guy, his politics are not my politics. I can assure you that. But this guy's a good man. I like him. I have heard many speeches and things that he has given. He's more along the lines of what I would call one of them blue dog Democrats, in my opinion. But he is, by any definition, what they call a mega donor for the Democrats. And he is saying, listen, I mean, folks, this is harsh. He's saying Kamala Harris is done. Politically, she's dead. Over with. That what she did with all that money and the way that she has ran this campaign is absolutely disqualifying. And I agree with him.
If you can't run a campaign, you can't run America. So the same thing is going to follow Harris for the rest of her career. She cannot be trusted with the money. And the donors are going to be like, where is this money?
Kamala's campaign manager is about to get canceled. She might be out of politics for good. Jen O'Malley Dillon, she was a Biden lady who never really wanted Kamala on the ticket in the first place, leaked to the Post that Kamala should be dumped from the ticket. And then when Joe got dumped, she took over Kamala's campaign and stabbed her in the back. That's what Democrats are saying. You know how girls can get. They're saying, quote, we don't really know why Jen didn't like her. But Biden's still getting most of the blame. Not for destroying the country and putting the Democrats on a path to disaster. No, they just think he should have dropped out sooner. Biden not taking any blame at all. He's acting like he won. The lame ducks letting Ukraine fire our missiles into Russia. Scranton Joe's even lost Michael Moore. Quote, seriously, this is your legacy? This is how you want to go out in a blaze of horror?
I think that's hilarious. And he's right. When you lost Michael Moore, of all people on the left, that's pretty bad. You want to go out in a blaze of horror? Like if Joe's got to go, we all got to go with him? Right into World War III. And of course, he's talking about the Ukraine crisis and all this nonsense that's going on with that. You know, I am curious too, when it comes to Kamala Harris, what do you think the biggest problem with her was? Do you think it was just, she was just a terrible candidate? Do you think it would have been her policies that doomed her, or the fact that she just didn't do any interviews? She just had this appearance and I'm going to hide in the basement like Joe did in 2020. I mean, what do you think the fatal flaw of Kamala Harris would be? I mean, I think there's a lot of people that just flat out didn't like her, but you know, you can say the same for Donald Trump. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that don't like him. I don't really know why liking a person one way or the other should affect the vote. The more I'm sitting there thinking about it. Matt, you're right. A DEI hire. I heard someone say that too. She is the ultimate DEI hire. And an interesting note on that, have y'all noticed Walmart and a lot of these companies that had these DEI policies? There's a guy that does a lot of talking about that. He does a lot of investigations. His name's escaping me. We'll see if I can pull him up on another live stream and we can talk about the work he does. But he had a lot to do with that Walmart change of policy. He is a former politician, is my understanding, and he basically did a deep dive and investigative report into Walmart and their hiring policies and all this DEI stuff. And as a result, when he brought this to their attention, the way he handled it, he was like, he didn't say change your policies or else I'm releasing this report. That would be illegal. That would be extortion is what that would be. But what he did correctly do is he said, hey, I'm a reporter. I've done this investigation. I'm sending you a copy of it. Is it right? Is there something I'm not showing correct? Am I being unfair about something? And do you have any comment pertaining to it? And then, of course, they looked at it and they're like, we need to talk to you. And that's exactly what happened on that particular DEI situation with Walmart. So I have to applaud him for that. That's great work. But you have Walmart's not alone. You have a lot of the companies now in the wake of Donald Trump's election. They're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe the world is not going as woke as we think it is. Maybe our country for sure is taking a much needed right turn, especially when it comes to policy and just the way we live as Americans. Who wants to have our girls going to school and have boys in the locker room or have them where they're competing with them in school sports? Who wants to lose their Second Amendment right to be able to keep and bear arms? Who wants the police going door to door confiscating our guns? I mean, Kamala Harris, when she ran, she was literally telling us, I'm going to raise your taxes. Personally, I think that, and Matt, you're right on that DEI. I think that's exactly what it was. If I had to state where I think she went wrong, I think the moment that killed her campaign, the moment that got her, had to be that interview. And it's kind of ironic, but that interview on The View, of all places, with sweet Sunny Hostin, where Sunny asked her, I mean, it was a softball question, and man, she fumbled it terribly. She was asked, what's one thing you would have changed differently if you could have a redo than what Joe Biden did? And she looked, she goes, I just really can't think of a thing. Nothing comes to mind. Oh, that was terrible. Terrible answer for, I mean, you couldn't think of anything. I mean, how about that Afghanistan pullout where you had these American soldiers die because of the way the pullout was handled or mishandled, and the people falling off the airplanes trying to get out, and the way they allowed the Taliban to basically have us leave under threat of being shot. I mean, there's just a whole lot, and not to mention the billions of dollars. Maybe it might have even been $1 trillion worth of military equipment. When we first went to Afghanistan, the Afghans did not have night vision equipment. That's one of the many things that we had an advantage over the Afghans. Well, guess what? They have night vision equipment now because we left it. Joe Biden left it. Now they have working night vision equipment. In addition to that, they left that Air Force Base. I believe that Air Force Base was like 30 miles wide. It was enormous. And it was right in the backyard of China, which would have came in really nice if we needed to fly over to China and have access to where they're building all of the nuclear fields for nuclear launchers. I see ICBM missiles right there. But our President Joe Biden decided it was over. And that was the end of it. And the rest is history. But come on, you couldn't think of nothing? Really? You can't think of nothing you would have changed different than what Joe Biden had. Matt says, unfortunately, Democratic Party has gone crazy. I feel they will go now further left. So yes, you have two different branches of the Dems right now. I mean, two distinct branches. You have the ones that are going harder to the left, as Matt is saying, no doubt about it. They're sinking in. These are your Elizabeth Warrens. These people like the Denver mayor, the Chicago mayor, they are like, even Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom's not sure which way he wants to go, but he's digging in. They are digging in, and they're like, no, we're going to keep riding this train for all it's worth. And then you have some of the other Dems that are going to the right a little bit, and they're saying maybe we should find our way back to the center, and we should start working more and talking more about the working class, which wins presidential elections. So we'll see where it all airs, once the air clears, exactly how this all comes out. But I'm with Matt. I don't have high hopes for him right now. And our friend at FJB, DEI Harris, is such a fake person. Everything that comes out of her mouth is lies. I think that is a very valid statement, my FJB friend. Okay, moving on. Speaking of Elizabeth Warren, and I have a video coming up on this y'all might find interesting. This is one of the few areas that I actually agree with Elizabeth Warren on. And I know you probably can't see it real clear on your screen, but it says that Elizabeth Warren is talking about we need to legalize marijuana. And in the meantime, we need to do everything we can to repair the harms of this unjust war on drugs. I happen to agree with her on that. I think a lot of blood, treasure, lives, our prisons are full of people in this so-called war on drugs. It's been something that's been going on since I was literally a child, and it hasn't worked, ladies and gentlemen. Even the fentanyl stuff, to some degree nowadays, I know they have to stop these drugs coming in on some level, but the fact that we have so many people incarcerated because they decided to take a drug themselves, that's got to be rethought. That's got, to use a word of Kamala Harris, it's got to be reimagined. It really does. And I know that's not a conservative view, and I get that, and we can all disagree on it. I get it. But when you get right down to it, there's too many people in prison now simply for possessing marijuana. Yes, even marijuana now. Not to mention other drugs. It's just too many lives been thrown away because of that, and something different has to happen. And I have a video in the works on this, but I think Donald Trump is actually going to sign off and allow it to become legal. They're going to classify it as a different schedule, and it will be more like aspirin or Motrin or something like that. I believe that is coming, and Donald Trump has made comments to that effect, that's going to be the way he's going to go on. And Matt says, I also agree. The fake Indian screen. Yeah, it's funny like that, Matt. Sometimes even the craziest Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, every time I hear her speak, it just makes me cringe on some level. But on this particular thing, she's probably right, unfortunately. But she probably is right. We have money that could be spent on so many better things and so many better programs, and there's been too many people hurt on this here. One thing that I did come across that I think is fantastic. This, in my mind, is one of the original woke deals that kind of was stuffed down our throats here. And I'm curious if y'all agree with me on that or not. Matter of fact, in the comments, if you don't mind, just give me a few agrees or disagree. I think this is one in my mind that I can remember from a long time ago, and that has to do with the Washington Redskins. Now, I'm not a big sports guy. I'm just going to tell you straight up, but I am familiar with this particular debate. And the Washington Redskins, what are they called now? The Commanders? Yes, the Commanders. Says the Washington Commanders are in talks to bring back the Washington Redskins names and team logo. Wouldn't that not be that'd be interesting? That was reported on Proud Elephant's X account today. I am curious as how that would be. I think it's a great idea to bring it back. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But again, in this identity politics world that we live in right now, you had a bunch of these people, the woke folks on the left, screaming and yelling that having an American Indian and calling him a redskin was racist and terrible. And finally, the management decided that, hey, you're right, we need a change. And of course, now they're looking to backtrack on that. The funny thing is, this one article that I reference on here, the name was in honor of a Indian leader, one of their leaders, and the Indian tribes themselves, to my knowledge, had no problem with it, especially at the point that they named the team the Washington Redskins. So I hope they bring that. I hope they bring that back, and we'll have to see how that works. So let's take a quick.
We were calling out leaders on a case of really woke gone wrong. The irony that they were canceling Native American culture as the DEI movement went way too far. Look, this is honoring a Blackfeet chief who was born in Montana. He's highly esteemed. The Blackfeet tribe of Montana, their current chairman and the tribal council signed a letter in strong support to bring the logo back. It honors Indian country. So we've had good discussions with the NFL and with the commanders. There's good faith negotiations going forward that's going to allow this logo to be used again. Perhaps revenues going to a foundation that could help Native Americans in sports and so forth. We're making good progress. And based on the good faith negotiations, I made a decision to support this bill yesterday in the committee.
I think that'd be fantastic. This guy here is Steve Daines from Montana, Homeland Security Committee. So I guess there's something in Washington that they're going to pass that's going to allow this to happen or encourage this to happen. But I think it's a great idea. Either way, we allowed for too long this woke nonsense to be crammed down our throats. And even someone like me, for most of my life, I normally just sat back and didn't pay no attention to it. Figured it doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me, whatever. But that thinking was wrong, because what happens is you give an inch, they take a mile. And I finally woke up one day and realized what's going on, and realized that in our world, we have this slow erosion of our rights. And that's exactly what is transpiring. It's just this never-ending stream of our rights being chipped away a little bit at a time. And you know, there was a story, I'm trying to think how far back it was. And listen, any type of sexual assault, stuff like this is terrible. People need to be punished. But there was some story of a young lady that was very intoxicated. She left the bar with this guy, and the allegation was there was some kind of assault took place behind a dumpster at a bar. If that happened, that's terrible. The guy needs to be punished. It's unfortunate I even have to say that. But the bigger point I want to make is that you have the U.S. government slowly eroding our rights on every level. Look at our freedom of speech right now. They're slowly eroding all of our rights, and people won't do nothing. They won't stand up. They won't say nothing. It's amazing. Yet, for that same example I gave you the first time, at that time it was going on, they actually had people on the streets rioting and marching and up in arms over the situation. But when it comes to our rights, you hear nothing. I used to tell people about this. I couldn't get them to write an email to their congressman. Now, I think some of this is starting to change now by holding ourselves accountable. And that's what I started doing to myself. I'm like, I just cannot not say something about this. And I started looking into YouTube and whatnot. And I'm like, this is a great platform. I like to talk anyways. I wasn't like that when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I don't mind talking. So I'm happy to talk about it. It's just one of the many things I enjoy talking about, because I think it can really make a difference. Even a small channel like this. I used to have no subscribers. Now I'm getting close to, was it almost 7,000? It's getting closer to it. But the point is, we can all make a difference. We just all have to start recognizing what's going on and start taking actions to change it. Matt says we are a great people. I agree, man. We integrate people very well. We have excellent values. Poor, rich, be proud. Amen. Amen. We have a great country. There is no doubt about that. And y'all know this about me. I love our country. I'm an American, red, white, and blue. If I'm cut, I bleed red, white, and blue. Period. I love the United States of America. I thank God for giving me that blessing to have been born here, to have the parents I have, to just have the upbringing I had. There's nothing that's ever perfect, ladies and gentlemen, but the fact that we're here, that we're breathing, it's only going to be for a very short time. You might as well make the most of it that you can. I mean, why not make it the most? I mean, do you want to end up, I mean, we're all going to die. Do you want to die and you never stood up for something, or at least you never tried to change an injustice or something that you see that is wrong? And as far as me, I want to make as much of a difference as I possibly can in this world, in the small capacity that I'm able to do it. And one final, while I'm on my soapbox, one final point on that is, even a small channel like mine, you never know what kind of difference this might have. There could be someone listening to it right now. There's something I say that plants a seed, and it could have some very serious change somewhere down the pipeline. Even my friend over in Montana, Sapphire Ridge, I don't know if he's in the chat today or not. He started listening to the channel. I started helping him produce his own channel and got him interested in making his own videos. And he's off to the races, and he's doing really good. I'm really happy for him. He's doing a fantastic job on his channel. By the way, his channel is at Sapphire Ridge News if you're interested. And he's doing very well for himself. So I'm very proud of him, and I'm happy, very happy for him. Now, I want to take a quick look at a couple of these stories here. Then we're going to start winding it down for the day. A lot of stuff going on the January 6th information. And obviously, President Donald Trump was promised to go ahead and pardon all these J6ers. And I'm definitely hoping that is exactly what happens with the J6 situation. This one prosecutor out in the D.C., the office of the, what do they call that? The District of Columbia. Yeah, the United States Attorney's Office. Let me show you this real quick. He every day is still posting anything and everything he can. As soon as he gets a conviction on a J6er, he's just all too happy, ladies and gentlemen, to tell us each one about it on there. So I don't know if you can see it on your phone. It may be too small. Maybe on TV you can see it. But this is the bozo right here, the U.S. Attorney Matthew M. Graves, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. And they're the ones that, his office is the one that prosecutes all these so-called J6 cases. And here's the ones from today. You can go to this site and refresh it daily and be made aware of whatever cases are going on. But take a look at this. I know we've talked about it on and off, but just yesterday, convicted felon, yesterday, Tennessee father and son sentenced to prison for assaulting law enforcement with a weapon during January 6th Capitol breach. They make it sound so dramatic, assaulted with a weapon. I haven't had time to look into the details of this case, but a lot of times they had a campaign sign or they had a stick or whatever it was, and it bumped against a law enforcement officer. So they end up pleading guilty. They take a plea deal, and we've talked about this a million times on this channel. You plead out because that's the only way to have any ability to try to control the outcome of the case. If you go to trial, even if you're not guilty, if you don't plead it out and you end up having a zealous prosecutor, and we know that this particular office, the entire Biden administration at the DOJ is extremely focused on hammering. I wouldn't call it prosecuting, I call it persecuting. And in the words of our great President Donald Trump-elect, all these J6 hostages, because that's what they are. These are political hostages in my mind. And by the way, that SOB that shot that girl that climbed through that window, I have a whole file I'm building on him, and I got a ton of stories that we're going to be talking about on this channel. This guy has a very checkered and colorful past, to put it bluntly. As a matter of fact, let's switch over to that story. I got it right here. This guy here is really a bozo, and I am not going to stop looking into this particular case. And I think I'm pretty certain you're going to see the Trump administration is not going to allow this to continue unchecked. He's going to hold these people accountable, and I have proof they're going to hold them accountable. I got recordings and different statements they have made, and it's very clear. When you listen to it in the context of an interview, you may not get it. When you slow it down and I play the sentence for you or play the statement, it's very clear that the Trump administration, especially with his new border czar, and you have Pam Bondi ready to take over as head at the Department of Justice, they're not going to let this go unpunished. I think they're giving individuals like Letitia James, some of these other people, a kind of one-time get out of jail free card, if you know what I mean, by telling them, hey, listen, we won. We're going to come after you if you don't do the right thing and put the cases, make them go away. I'm just telling you what thing's going to happen. We'll see if I am right. So quickly on this article here, it says, cop who fatally shot J6 protester has lengthy discipline record that includes gun instances. We have talked about on this channel years ago. There was a case that was all over the news. Y'all remember this, where they reported that there was a gun found in the men's restroom at the Capitol building, and everybody was up in arms, no pun intended, trying to find what happened or what the problem was with this weapon. Well, it turned out this lunatic, this Michael Byrd, this cop here, he was in the restroom using the facilities. He took his gun off and he forgot to put his gun back on. So you have the same clown, this incompetent bozo that left his gun in the restroom. And that's exactly what happened. This is the same guy. And I have the video on this too. This is the same guy that shot this unarmed American patriot, this female, shot her dead climbing through a broken glass window at the Capitol. Just shot her dead. She did not have any weapon, any armed, and he never faced any consequences for this. To the contrary, he was applauded, and I believe he got got some type of award for this. There's a new sheriff in town, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump's going to have a different type of reward for him. I am very straight up about this. I think that's what's going to happen. So let's touch base on this. The issues in Officer Michael Byrd's background include a failed shotgun qualification test, a failed FBI background check, a suspension for a lost weapon. I think that's what I was just talking about in the men's restroom. I'm not sure if it's the same one or not. And a referral to the prosecutors for firing his gun at a stolen car. So apparently there was a stolen car, and this clown took his gun and started firing at a moving, fleeing object, which is a big no-no. You don't do that. You only use your gun in the case where someone is about to die, and that person about to die is you or somebody else, that someone else is about to be killed. And of course, this young Marine that climbed through this broken window at the Capitol, she was not about to kill him or anybody else. And yet she was shot dead. Mark my words, this is going to be a subject revisited to. The Capitol police officer fatally shot, and this is the young lady's name. I don't want to misstate it because she is an American patriot, but her last name is Babbitt. So Miss Babbitt, I'm not sure how to say her first name, Ashlia, A-S-H-L-I. I'm going to call her Miss Babbitt, during the J6 riots, and then was promoted. Yes, this clown was promoted. After he shot her dead, he was promoted. It turns out he has a lengthy internal affairs and disciplinary record that includes firearm-related incidents. A sweeping congressional investigation is found. The issues, and Captain, get this guy's name, Captain Michael Byrd. How about that, huh? I'd like to give him the bird, right? The issues in Captain Michael Byrd's background include a failed shotgun qualification test, a failed FBI background check for a weapons purchase, a 33-day suspension for a lost weapon, and a referral to a Maryland state prosecutors for firing his gun at a stolen car fleeing his neighborhood, according to congressional and police documents obtained by Just the News, because this is on the site justthenews.com. Byrd's record was uncovered during a larger House Administration Oversight Subcommittee investigation into the Capitol Police disciplinary process, and was chronicled in a letter Representative Barry Loudermilk, a Republican of Georgia, the panel's chairman, sent Wednesday to the department's chief, Thomas Manger, in which the lawmaker expressed concerns about the officer's promotion to captain. You think? This subcommittee is dedicated to ensuring USCP has autonomy from political pressure so it can make operational and personnel decisions. Loudermilk wrote in the letter, however, based on the information obtained by the subcommittee regarding USCP handling of Captain Byrd, following the January 6, 2021, and his significant disciplinary history, I have concerns about USCP's decision to promote him to the rank of captain. You can read the letter below. Here's the list of the incidents. They listed them out right here. I'm not going to read all that again. We get the Cliff Notes version of this. It says Mark Samuel, the lawyer representing Byrd, did not respond to several requests for comment. U.S. Capitol Police did not return several inquiries from Just the news. In his only interview, and I have that in one of my files too, Byrd told NBC News Lester Holt about his experience on January 6th and defended the decision she made that day, including to use his firearm against Miss Babbitt, a pro-Trump protester who had entered the Capitol. He says, quote, I believe I showed utmost courage on January 6th, and it's time for me to do that now, end quote. Byrd said when he was asked why he decided to come forward publicly. He had told Holt that he was very afraid that day as protesters threatened to climb through the barricades blocking the doors into the House chamber while he was simultaneously hearing reports from around him of the Capitol and of breaches of different barricaded areas, officers being overran, and officers being downed. I have not heard officers being downed, but whatever. Ultimately, Byrd defended his choice to shoot an unarmed Miss Babbitt, saying that in his assessment, she was posing a threat to the members of the House he was tasked with protecting. He's making a mistake giving these interviews. You know how I feel about talking to the police. You don't talk to the police. Even after a promotion, even after all these accolades, I would not be on the record talking about this, period. Because as you are well aware, murder does not have a statute of limitations federally or on a state level, included but not limited to the District of Columbia, which of course this took place in. So it's extremely sad, but posing a threat, you can't fire on someone for posing a threat. There has to be a threat of bodily injury or death to you or someone in your proximity. I think that's exactly what needs to be explained and what needs to be cleared. Says, I've been yelling and screaming as loud as I can. Please stop, get back up, stop. Byrd said, oh, he said that through the closed barricaded door. I don't think so. From what I remember, he was cowered in his office there, hiding behind a desk. We had weapons drawn, he recounted. She was posing a threat to the United States House of Representatives. Boy, don't that beat all, huh? We'll see how that plays out, my friends. I think that that's going to be interesting. Oh, my goodness, you guys are so kind. Zach, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Yes, I hope you have a safe trip, safe journey, wherever you're going, my friend. Zach, thank you for your $3 super chat. That is very kind of you. I definitely appreciate it. I'm working on putting the names of my regular folks who support the channel down there, and I definitely want to include y'all's name on there. I really appreciate it. And my friend Matt Smith, as always, you are a great American. Good evening follows. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Zach. You guys are the best. All you guys are. I appreciate all y'all's support. You guys are fantastic, and you guys are the best internet family I frankly could ever hope for. And that's just the God straight truth there, just straightforward. So it is appreciated and very humbling, and I really respect each and every one of you. So, all right, my friends, we're going to land the plane here. I don't want the power hour to become the power hours. I want to kind of take care of what business we got to take care of during the time allotted. But in closing, I want to make sure I tell y'all that I really hope that each and every one of you have the best Thanksgiving that you possibly could have. I hope you have safe travels to where you're going and have safe travels home. And when you're with your family and friends, listen, the J.R. Duke's advice is you don't have to talk politics. You don't have to talk about any of this stuff. You got plenty of other things to talk about. Just have nice family conversations and get along with everybody. In the scheme of things, these politics, these political matters, well, they just really are not that important. I want to take one more second. Again, I want to thank my friend Matt Smith for your continued contributions to my channel. Very kind of you. And then, of course, Zach, you're always supporting the channel too. Thank you for the super sticker. I want to also thank everyone who shows up regularly. I know FJB, you're here very often. Obviously, Matt Smith, as we said, Zach, American Nana, you guys are fantastic. And I don't take it for granted. I can straight up tell each and every one of you that. So thank you all again for everything that you do for this particular channel. If y'all need to reach out to me, don't hesitate to do so. My contact information is in the scroll below. It's also in the comments. You can follow me on the X platform at Reach JR Dukes. All the other platforms are simply at JR Dukes. And of course, my website is jrdukes.com. And I generally forward that to wherever platform that I am mainly working on. I am working on an actual interactive website rather, for that. But always remember that at the jrdukes.com. My next show, Lord willing, I should have a show probably Sunday night. It depends how well I travel or how fast we travel and when I get back, but we'll see how it goes. But I generally post on the X platform a little bit ahead of time before I have one of these live events. And finally, if you're having the trouble where your YouTube account is not saying, hey, JR Dukes went live, go to your settings where it says subscribe and click on that. It's like a little drop down menu. It will give you different choices. One of them says personalize, one says none, and the other one says all. Make sure you click all. That way, when I go live, it will alert you. If you check none or personalize, it may or may not give you the heads up that, hey, I went live, feel free to join. So just give you a little bit of FY information on that right there. I hope that I hope this is a great Thanksgiving for each and every one of you. I also pray and hope that the Lord himself will give everybody a safe travel there and back to wherever you're going. May God's special anointing be on you, your family, your children, your grandchildren each and every day of your lives. I humbly and definitely pray that God blesses you and your family every single day that you're around. That's my fondest prayer for you and for our country. My friends, I always say keep that mind free, never give up. Until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.